So let's look at what I have here. The first one I have, STDs, or some people are calling them STIs, sexually transmitted infections. The previous acronym STD, sexually transmitted diseases. There are quite a few out there. They're evolving. HIV and AIDS. You can Google that stuff. Gonorrhea, chlamydia. The funny thing about gonorrhea and chlamydia, a long time ago, there was a point of time where the strand, it turned into a strand where it combined, gonorrhea and chlamydia combined, and it was actually resistant to drugs for a little bit until they found a cure for it. So that just goes to show there's just a lot of careless, reckless sexual activity going on where STDs that had cures evolve, get stronger, and resist drugs, and then you have to wait for a drug that actually works to get rid of these things. So, but there, it is still out there separate as gonorrhea and chlamydia as well. There's syphilis, there's hepatitis, there's genital warts, there's herpes, and warts that comes from the human papilloma virus, HPV, known as HPV. HPV is so common that they had to come out with a vaccination. Come on, y'all. People, they have a vaccination. That means it's just running rapid. And now the younger generation has to get a vaccine. Well, you don't have to, but they're suggesting that they get the vaccination to not get HPV. That's sad. And then there's a couple strands to that. You can end up with, if you don't get warts, you can end up with the strand of cervical cancer. Anyways, and I'm sure that affects men as well. I just don't know. I don't want to misinform you with the wrong terms, but just check that stuff out. Herpes, they try to tell you in clinics now that it's not a big deal to get tested for herpes because there's herpes 1 and herpes 2 and look now, get tested. I understand their whole rationale of, oh, well, you may have cold sores and that doesn't mean it was sexually transmitted. Look now, get the test, okay? Just because it could be a sexually transmitted disease, and you should know if you have it or not. Especially if you are a virgin and you have it, then that's proof that you had it before you had sex. But yeah. Anyways, so these type of things are very uncomfortable. These things are embarrassing. Even though some of these things can be treated. Come on now, who wants to walk around with this stuff? And then people end up passing it on to other people, not knowing because they're not getting tested. And by the time you go in for the test, your results are outdated anyway, because it's not like it tests for the very last second you were sexually active. So do your research and you'll see the window span of how far back these sexually transmitted disease results can actually track. You're pretty much always outdated. So celibacy is the way to go unless you are in a monogamous holy matrimony. Anyway, let's move on. That was a long one. What about a heartbreak? I like to call that a heart shatter. All right, here's where depression can kick in. All kind of who knows what disorders. I know supposedly a lot of disorders are supposed to be born with them and then certain circumstances bring them out. I beg to differ. Am I a professional in that field? No, I'm not, but science is always growing. And there are episodes like depression that can be just for certain situations, like situational depression. Maybe you didn't battle with it all your life. Either way, come on now. We don't need this mental distress. We don't need an emotional breakdown because we were blindsided. You can really end up with all kinds of defects in your body, and your health begins to break down when you are in distress, when you are stressed out. And that's what these heartbreaks do. So you shouldn't have to get cancer with cells going all out of whack, and because all cancer is abnormal cells. Because you had a heartbreak, come on now, you don't want cancer because you had a heartbreak. All right, the doctor may not tell you cancer came from that, but I'm gonna tell you that it came from that, okay, or could. I mean, it's just, if cancer can just pop up from all these other things, different chemicals and food and in products, why not your cells just go out of whack because you are losing your chemical balance in your brain? So we don't need those kind of problems. All right, let's go on.